I've struggled with anxiety ever since I was a kid, and now as I've started reflecting more on morality, a thought struck me. Do I abhor utilitarianism because I am an anxious person? According to the classical utilitarianism of Jeremy Bentham, happiness is the single important feature that we should center morality around. I find this odd, but maybe my proneness to anxiety is the reason why. Because if we should always aim to maximize happiness, then why continue living if life is filled with anxiety and fear? In light of this, the absurdist question, should I kill myself or have a cup of coffee, becomes incredibly relevant for me if happiness is the sole thing to strive for. The way I see it, the struggles of life clearly outweighs the happiness, so utilitarianism seems to be false. But maybe that's just my psychology talking. According to this survey, about 32% support deontology, about 31% consequentialism, and about 37% support virtue ethics. But why is that the case? Could it be that the division is based on the psychology of these philosophers? I sure hope not, but there is a risk. Let's turn to psychology for some clarity. Here are the famous Big Five personality traits within psychology: openness, conscientiousness, extraversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism, sometimes abbreviated as OCEAN. But the trait I want to focus on here is the last one, neuroticism. If you score high on neuroticism, you're prone to negative emotions such as anxiety, worry, fear, loneliness, guilt, and pessimism, for instance. All in all, the opposite of happiness, right? And also many of the things that I experience on a day-to-day basis. There actually is a utilitarian philosopher, David Benatar, who concluded that we should stop having children, since we're producing more pain in the world by bringing them into existence. The argument is simple. Let's consider two different worlds. Here's world P. In this world, my parents met and had me. Yay! But over here, in world not P, my parents never met, and therefore I was never born. Now, in world P, where I do exist, there is the presence of pain, which is considered bad, but also the presence of pleasure, which is good. But in world not P, where I do not exist, there's a complete absence of pain, which is good, right? The absence of pain is always a good thing, but there's also a complete absence of pleasure, which is not bad, right? So as you can see, according to this diagram, there's an asymmetrical relationship regarding pleasure and pain between existence and non-existence. Obviously, we shouldn't kill anybody because that would produce more pain, but if we're good utilitarians, shouldn't we stop having children because it would reduce the overall pain in the world? I myself think that Benatar is fundamentally correct, but that only makes me conclude that an ethic centered around pleasure or happiness must be false. Why should morality be based on something that concludes that we should stop procreating and let our species die out? Maybe I only think this way because I'm prone to anxiety. Certainly, if I thought that my life was a net positive in happiness, my conclusion might have been different. I've always seen life as a struggle. I always want to learn new things, but the only way to do that is through the pain of struggle. And the reward of learning something is so short-lived that it doesn't make up for the struggle of learning it. Yet, I still think it's worth to learn it. This is one of the reasons why I'm leaning more towards deontology, and it has worked out well for me as a decision procedure. Sometimes, when I feel down or I'm not in the mood for something, a little voice in my head whispers, "Your happiness is not important. Just do. It's categorical. It's your duty. So when I wake up every morning, no matter how much anxiety I have, I take that cup of coffee instead of, well, yeah, you know what. But what do you think? Does people's psychology shape the way they theorize about morality? If so, this sets up a big problem for ethical thinking in general, I guess. Let's say hypothetically that we have a world that is identical to ours, but everyone in that world possesses my pessimism towards happiness. An incredibly dreary world, I know, but the question is, would utilitarianism ever appear as an ethic within that world? So the counterfactual is, if the world did not possess any happy people, then utilitarianism would never have existed. Is that counterfactual true? I think that it might be, but the interesting thing is that a certain feature within Kantianism does not face the same problem at all, because it is functional within every possible world, even the world where everyone are pessimists. Now, how can I make that claim? Well, the whole idea of the universalization of maxims is solely based upon logic and nothing else really. The only thing you need for it to function is rationality. That's it, basically. And the thing with logic is that if you have a valid deductive argument, it's necessarily true, meaning it's valid in every possible world. Therefore, within Kantianism, the act of telling a lie will be wrong since it leads to a contradiction in every possible world. Yes, I know. Kantianism is incredibly flawed, filled with unintuitive results, and comes with a bunch of problems. But this feature of being valid within every possible world is one of the strongest reasons why I'm leaning towards Kantianism. Even the utilitarian philosopher Richard Hare leveraged this Kantian feature to give his preference utilitarianism an objective flavor. But that's another episode in itself. But if you want to understand this feature better and why lying is wrong within every possible world, then I suggest you to check out this video here where I discuss the basics of Kantianism.